It was a normal afternoon. I had just come home from work, threw my keys on the counter, and was settling in for some much-needed rest when my phone buzzed. It was Rachel, my ex-girlfriend. We hadn't spoken in months since she decided we needed space. My heart skipped for a second, wondering what she could possibly want. I opened the message. "Thanks for paying my law school tuition," face blowing a kiss. "My new rich man says thank you too." And just like that, 3 years of memories, sacrifices, and support came crashing down. Along with the text was a photo, her in a tight, expensive dress, smiling next to some guy in a suit, champagne in hand, clearly celebrating. It wasn't just betrayal. It was mockery. I had worked my fingers to the bone, part-time jobs, skipped luxuries, sleepless nights, to help her chase her dream. And now she'd graduated, tossed me aside like trash, and was flaunting her new upgrade. I didn't reply with anger. I didn't curse. I simply wrote, "You're welcome." And in that moment, something inside me flipped. She thought she had won. But the game was just beginning. I met Rachel during her second year of college. She was ambitious, full of fire, and talked constantly about becoming a successful attorney. At the time, I was already working full-time, saving for a house and slowly building a future. She, on the other hand, was drowning in student loans, barely making rent, and juggling part-time jobs. I offered support, first emotionally, then financially. I didn't think twice. That's what you do when you love someone. When she said she wanted to go to law school, I was the first to encourage her. I helped her prep for the LSAT, paid for her coaching classes, and even drove her to interviews. When she got accepted, she cried in my arms. That night, I promised I'd help her through it all. I signed loan agreements, added her to my credit line, and co-signed wherever she couldn't get approved. She moved into my apartment rent-free. I covered groceries, bills, internet, and even her textbooks. I didn't realize back then how quickly generosity can turn into entitlement. The more I gave, the more she expected. And slowly, without noticing, I wasn't her partner, I was her provider. Looking back now, the signs were all there. I just refused to see them. In the beginning, everything felt perfect, like we were building a life together. But as time went on, little things started to show. Rachel would constantly talk about how her classmates were going places, how their partners were in finance, and how she hated how small our apartment felt. I brushed it off as stress. Law school was hard, and I figured the pressure was making her edgy. But then came the secretive phone calls, the sudden nights studying late, and the way she guarded her phone like it was the key to national security. She stopped thanking me for things, the rides, the meals, the money. Instead, it became routine. Expected. Entitled. There was one night I'll never forget. I surprised her with takeout from her favorite Thai place and she barely looked up from her laptop. "You could have at least gotten the right sauce," she muttered. "No thank you." No smile. Just criticism. That was the first time I felt invisible in my own relationship. I should have questioned it more. But love has a way of dulling your instincts. I kept telling myself she was just overwhelmed, that things would go back to normal after graduation. Turns out, this was her normal. I was just too blind to see it. Rachel always played the struggling student role perfectly. She'd sigh dramatically about tuition bills, textbooks being unaffordable, and how hard it was to focus when money was always tight. And every time, I stepped in like a fool with a wallet. I didn't even realize how deeply I was being manipulated. I thought I was helping the woman I loved chase her dream. Turns out, I was just funding her escape plan. I took on extra freelance work, skipped my annual vacation, and sold my car to get something cheaper, all to ease her burden. I watched my savings drain faster than I could refill it, but I kept telling myself it was temporary. One day, she'd pass the bar, land a big firm job, and we'd finally breathe easy. She'd give speeches about how we were in this together, yet I was the only one sacrificing. She had time for parties, expensive coffees, and study trips with friends. I ignored it. Love makes you believe in the potential, not the reality. She cried when she missed a scholarship. I paid. She stressed over overdue fees. I paid. Every struggle she had, I turned into mine. I didn't know back then that while I was planning our future, she was planning hers, without me. I found out about him 3 weeks before her graduation, the rich man. I didn't know his name yet, but his shadow was everywhere. Expensive perfume I'd never bought her, a bracelet I knew I hadn't gifted, and Uber receipts to places she never mentioned. When I asked, she brushed it off, said her classmates were treating her, or that she was networking. I wanted to believe her. Desperately. But then I saw the photo. It was buried in her Instagram story, shown only to her close friends. She must have forgotten I was still one of them. There she was, in a private lounge, sipping champagne beside a man in a tailored suit. His hand rested confidently on her thigh. Her caption manifested it. Nail polish medium skin tone. It clicked. All those late nights, the sudden distance, her growing disinterest in me, it wasn't stress. It was strategy. She had been aligning herself with someone richer, someone flashier, someone she thought was an upgrade. I was never part of the plan beyond the utility. That text she eventually sent after graduation? That wasn't her moment of betrayal. That was just the confession. The real betrayal had started long ago, and I'd unknowingly financed every bit of it. I stared at her graduation text for a long moment. That smug tone, that kissy face emoji, it wasn't just rude, it was victorious. She wanted me to feel humiliated, to see myself as the fool who funded her glow-up while she walked into the arms of someone richer. But what she didn't realize was that I had one thing she lacked: foresight. So I replied with 2 simple words, "You're welcome." And then I got to work. While she celebrated with champagne and her new man, I opened my laptop. I had every document saved: loan agreements, tuition payments, credit card records. All the loans she thought were in her name, co-signed. All the accounts she'd forgotten I had access to, still very much mine. I'd kept the receipts, quite literally. See, she had assumed once she graduated, she was free. But freedom doesn't come without consequences. And in her case, the bills had just started arriving. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to be methodical, precise, cold. Because if she wanted to play the rich life, she could start by paying for the one she built on my back. And I'd be the one collecting. She had no clue how deep in the hole she really was. While she strutted around in designer heels, flashing the diploma I practically bought, the financial chains were still tightly wrapped around her, and I held the keys. Every semester, she'd asked me to co-sign student loans, just in case, because her credit wasn't strong enough. I had done it without hesitation, believing we were in it together. But those loans weren't grants. They weren't gifts. They were contracts, with interest. I contacted each lender, submitted paperwork to shift full financial responsibility to her, citing the end of our relationship and my withdrawal as a guarantor. Since she was now a licensed graduate with future earning potential, most accepted. Others. I gave notice of immediate repayment, something she clearly hadn't expected. Within 2 weeks, she started getting the calls. Letters. Emails. Repayment schedules. Her new rich man might have had the charm, but he clearly didn't have the patience, or the intention, to bail her out of thousands in debt. The image of her opening those letters, realizing the party was over and the bill was due, gave me a satisfaction I didn't know I needed. She wanted independence. Now she had it, with interest. The silence didn't last long. Soon, I started getting texts from her, not smug this time, but panicked. "What's going on with the loans?" "I just got a notice from Sally Mae. Did you do something?" I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to. I just didn't need to. She had made her choices. I was simply showing her the fine print. Then came the phone call. She was crying, her voice shaking. "This isn't fair," she said. "You said you were helping me." I almost laughed. Helping her? I had bent over backwards for years while she built a future behind my back. Now she wanted sympathy? No chance. A few days later, I heard through mutual friends that her new man had backed off. Apparently, He wasn't thrilled about dating someone with over $90,000 in debt and no plan to handle it. The champagne glasses were gone. So was the smugness. Her law degree was real. But so were the bills. And unlike me, those lenders weren't going to be patient or loving. They wanted their money. She thought she left me behind. What she didn't realize was that her past wasn't done with her yet. It just had my signature all over it. The last thing I expected was a call from her new boyfriend's mother. It came out of nowhere, a number I didn't recognize, and a voice I'd never heard before. "Hi, is this the young man who was dating Rachel?" she asked, polite but firm. I said yes, cautiously. What followed was pure comedy. She launched into a speech about how young people make mistakes, how her son wasn't ready for a woman with that kind of baggage, and, the kicker, how I should do the right thing and take Rachel back. I paused. Did this woman really think I'd rescue the girl who used me, then mocked me? When I asked if she was seriously suggesting I forgive Rachel to spare her son from the responsibility, she replied, "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds selfish." I hung up, speechless. Even now, I don't know what was more ridiculous, that Rachel expected me to clean up her mess, or that her new man's own mother was trying to offload her like a bad investment. I guess in the end, even her rebound realized something I learned too late. She's expensive, exhausting, and not worth the credit. The courtroom was quiet, almost too quiet, when she walked in, wearing a crisp white blazer like she was attending some business brunch instead of facing the man she betrayed. She avoided eye contact. Her lawyer looked like he was trying not to sigh. My own attorney, cool as ever, had a folder so thick it could have been a textbook, filled with proof of every payment, every loan, every receipt. We were ready. Rachel's lawyer tried to spin it, that I had gifted the money out of love, that she had no obligation to repay anything. But the judge wasn't buying it. Especially not after we presented her text message, the one where she thanked me for paying her tuition, followed by that mocking, "My new rich man thanks you too." It destroyed any defense of innocence. Then came the documents, each co-signed loan, each credit card expense, each tuition check written for my account. I watched her face fall with every page. The ruling? Clear and clean. She was held responsible for the full repayment of all loans and expenses tied to her education, plus minor legal fees. Her new man didn't show up. As I walked out of the courtroom, the weight I'd carried for years finally lifted. She used me to build her future. But in the end, I took it back, piece by piece, with nothing but the truth and a paper trail. That white blazer she wore didn't look quite so powerful walking out in defeat.